fans, it's time for Flames Unfiltered, your spot for Calgary Flames hockey talk.
As each game passes, the Pacific Division slips away. Oh, yeah, and thanks for the tweet, Alan Walsh. That really helped. Welcome to another edition of Flames Unfiltered, hosted by Brad Burud and Kyle Lewis. And tonight is another fired up episode, Kyle, because we have a lot to be fired up about.
It'll be plenty unfiltered, I assure you.
That's why we haven't named that, right? We speak the truth. We love our team, but we speak the truth.
Yep, and we will get into that topic in particular here very shortly.
Yeah, you know what? I was thinking this week when I was watching I don't even know if it was. I think it was probably the Detroit game. I was thinking, like, when does the disappointment go away? Like, now I'm disappointed when we're losing, and I'm just like, bleh. And a little angry, probably, on top of that. But, like, when does it go away? And I was sitting there thinking about it. I'm like, well, it only goes away when I admit that we suck and we need to get a game plan on how we're going to get to be better.
Yeah, I was thinking about, it's kind of like a relationship. Like, it's not going to get better unless you walk away from it.
You can't walk away from the team.
Well, I know you can't, and that's the thing with a lot of relationships too. I mean, it's still worth your time and effort in a lot of cases, and that's what people need to do. But it's just that whole, when something just isn't getting better, you have to make a decision about basically what you just said, how you're going to handle it, how you're going to think about it, or do you just call it a season and say, you know what, they're still my team and I love them, but let's ride out the clock and look towards the draft and maybe what we can sell at the deadline, or if that's your perspective. And right now we're still so firmly in purgatory, I don't even know what to think.
And that is the problem. I think that's why it's so difficult now, is because it's a damn roller coaster. Like, we play Detroit and it's just a train wreck of a game. And then we play the Rangers and I get done watching the game and I'm thinking, okay, that team can beat anybody in the league.
Yep. Yeah,
and then I get my hopes up a little bit. And then I watch the Flyers game and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what is going on?
Yeah. How many breakaways in that game? The Coleman, off the post, like Mangiapane, I think, had a breakaway.
The part that bothers me too, like, the last 5 goaltenders we've won against have like under 30 career games. Stauber, like 5 games. Halak, well, I guess he's got a lot of games. Sogard, 6, 7, 8 games. I think he's in that range. Hellberg's in like the 15 rank game range. Yeah. And that Aronson guy for the Flyers is like 7 to 10. I know it's not more than 10.
6-0 now, I think. 6-1, whatever it is. A crazy good record. Back
and forth, man. We can't put a streak together to save our life. We haven't won 2 games in a row since January 21st, 23rd.
And that feels like, well, it was a long time ago, I guess. Oh, Lord.
Man, oh man. It's crazy. Yeah. It's a roller coaster, and we're going to talk about it on the show today. 2 bad losses, a good win against arguably the best team in the league right now. We're going to talk about some random Flames news. Kyle and I are going to get a little angry about some ways fans react to certain things. And then we'll discuss what direction we go from trade deadline here, which is a little over a week away. And then how could we leave out the infamous Alan Walsh tweet? We'll touch on that. And then we got 4 games to recap as the Flames schedule. It gets really, really busy right now. And we'll recap those 4 games, or preview those 4 games. It's going to be a busy and probably another heated edition of Flames Unfiltered. All right, Kyle. Detroit comes to town.
I don't want to talk about this.
I don't really want to talk about this game either, because this one actually bothered me more than the Philadelphia game, I think. And here's why. Vladar gets the start. So I'm pumped about that, because I'm like, all right, we're handing him the keys to the car here. Freaking drive this bad boy and get us into the playoffs. And he freaking hit I don't know where it was just not good. I mean, he wasn't horrendous, but he did what Markstrom's been doing too much lately and not make the save he has to make.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, it was really, really frustrating because we were clamoring on the last show about getting him more starts, and I, as I'm sure you do and most Flames fans do, we still stand by that. But you're gonna have games like that. The problem is that you can't afford to have them, and you can't have both goaltenders having them. So
this was
it's disappointing.
It was his chance, and he was. I felt like it. I felt like he was getting handed the keys, and it was probably one of his worst outings of the year. And
undoubtedly,
just drop the ball there, drop the ball. But you know what actually pissed me off a little bit worse than the way we played was I'm so tired of the post-game interviews, and I love Kristanov, but when I hear, I'm glad he said, talked about emotion and how there was a lack of emotion, but and Sutter mentioned the lack of emotion. Like, we're game 50 something and we've got lack of emotion and we're trying to get into the playoffs, and like I'm tired of the "we're just have to be better" speech. Is that too much to?
No, not at all. It's like anything else. People talk and talk and talk and don't do. There's a complete lack of action, right? Which I think everybody's guilty of at some point or another. But I mean, it's the same rhetoric over and over and over. I don't care to hear it anymore. If you want to, claim it's something within your control, then control it. Show more emotion. Be more physical. The power play is just, apart from goaltending, probably their second biggest problem right now. It's just, I don't know. It's all rhetoric and it's useless. In the post-game interviews from one loss to the next, they're just carbon copy, maybe a different player, but still saying the same thing.
We have three giant problems. We've got a starting goalie with a .889 save percentage.
That's incredible. The guy's a Vezina candidate a year ago.
We have a power play that's, well, you just described it.
25th, 24th, somewhere like, yeah.
And what the hell was my third thing, Kyle? I don't
know.
No. Oh, and we don't know how the hell to defend a 2-on-1 to save our freaking life.
No. God. No, not at all. And in fact, I mean, even in the game the other day and on the loss to Philly, like that, the Zadorov play, again, me with the air quotes, on one of those goals where he just basically lays down, like, it's like, man, like, it's exactly what you said about the 2-on-1s. Like, it's just brutal. It's just terrible defensive coverage, such that if you're counting on your goaltender to make the save because you made the wrong play, and he's not making it or hasn't been making it, like, one of those two things has to work out. Are the goalie's going to bail you out, or are you going to make the right play defensively? We're not seeing any of either, especially in that game.
Brutal. Saturday night was better. The Rangers come to town.
So much hope. So much hope.
God, we're getting them on a second night of a back-to-back, which we got Detroit in the second night of a back-to-back. Didn't matter. But we're getting the Rangers, and then 48 seconds in, Majapani scores. Kadri scores a beautiful one from Huberdeau and Pelche. 8 seconds later, we're up 2-0, a minute 6 into the game or whatever it is. And it's like, I'm watching this team and I'm like, Huberdeau is having his best game I've ever seen him play in Calgary.
Yep.
Everything is clicking for the Flames. They are good. And the Rangers didn't back down either. I mean, they are a good hockey team. They get right back into it and they tie it up. And on a goal that I think Coleman knocked it into the net. No, did you see that the same as me?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
But
I concur.
What did you think with Kadri getting tossed?
I don't know what he said. I know it was the reaction by the officials is a little over the top, but at the same time,
I don't know what he said. Sutter just kind of helped him down the tunnel.
But for all the flack a guy like Sidney Crosby gets for whining to the refs, allegedly, and we've all seen it, Kadri does it a lot too. And that's one thing I have. He's always whining at calls, always. And it's like, okay, you're not doing yourself any favors. Like, just shut up. I the shaking your head occasionally, like, really, that kind of behavior, but the whining, it's like, man, just let it go. You're not helping the team. You're not helping yourself, your reputation. Like, just let it go.
Yeah, I know. I'm with you on that one too. And it's too bad because I thought he had a decent game that night. And
And actually, to your point about Huberdeau, I want to point something out just for people who don't seem to understand or don't have this fact correct about Jonathan Huberdeau. Jonathan Huberdeau did not play with Barkov 5-on-5 in Florida. And I'm so sick of seeing tweets saying, like, oh, but he misses Barkov and blah, blah. He didn't play with him.
Freaking Duclair.
Duclair and Sam Bennett.
I know.
Like,
cast off. Yeah, the same Sam Bennett that this fan base freaking ran out of town every night on 960. They brutally crucified him every single night after the games.
Yeah. Anyway, I know most people I think have figured that out or knew that, and it's just I got to point it out again because I'm tired of hearing about Barkov and the effect he allegedly had on Huberdeau. Huberdeau is a fantastic player with good but not world class line mates in Florida. So, but yeah, to your point, his best game is a Flame, and I don't think there's any argument to be made otherwise.
Backlund wins it with a beautiful tip in on a shot from Huberdeau in overtime, and the sweet justice there was Adam Fox.
Was that sweet justice or Swede justice?
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Oh my gosh. Oh, but Fox is in the penalty box, and that felt good. And that win, it felt good, and it looked like it felt good for the team, and it felt good for the fan base. Like, I don't know. I felt really pumped and jacked after that game. I really did.
That was the win that should have begun a winning streak.
For sure.
Because we've all been waiting for one, and that looked like it was going to be the catalyst to go on a 4 or 5 game tear and get back in a wildcard spot. And
then
as we're about to find out, spoiler alert, Monday's game.
Monday was bring your family to the Saddle Dome and watch the Flames suck night or day.
Yeah.
Because it's family day. And it was brutal. Markstrom back in, and Stone was out. We'll talk about that in a minute. Gilberton. And I don't even know what to say. I really nothing. We were just flat team.
Well, two of the biggest, well, all 3 problems that you mentioned, I guess I alluded to 2 and you mentioned the third. Shitty goaltending. Yeah. Shitty power play, horrendous power play, in fact, and awful defensive coverage, in particular in 2-on-1s. Just an all-around mess of a game, a complete lack of anything. They were just bad. They were just, and like I shouldn't say that entirely because it was some push towards the end. You know,
we scored 2 goals to come back.
Yeah,
all for nothing.
Yeah, another way.
Once this year, we haven't come back once this year, and we put it together where we tie a game up and then
haven't come back once. Have no shutouts. There are some really concerning stats surrounding this team. Like, they just don't make it. How is that possible this many games in? How is that possible? Actually, you know what? We should do some research and find out the last time a team for either one of those stats went this many games in the season without a come from behind win, or went this many games without any team shutouts at all.
You might be scared. We had some really lean goaltending years in Calgary.
Hey, you leave Tyrone Garner out of this, okay?
You know what? This week I saw somebody, I don't know who it was, posted on Twitter a picture of Jonas Hiller. And I remember when we got Hiller, I was like, oh, this is a ticket. I love this guy. Like,
yeah. Hey, he was that 1 year with him and Ramo, 14-15. It was awesome.
Yeah.
That was super fun. And he had that lights out game against Chicago. I think I actually mentioned that game on the show before, but yeah, like Tyler Moss, Tyrone Garner, like Jaguar before he was, legendary.
We could go on and on and on.
Oh man. But yeah, but the goaltending, like you need your goaltender to bail you out here and there. And I know, Markstrom made the cartwheel save against Scheifele earlier in the year. Like there's a few examples of some flashes of brilliance, but like, goddamn, like help your team out. Steal a goddamn game.
0.889.
That's incredible. And the guy was a Vezina candidate. It's fucking incredible.
And maybe you can call me a dumbass. I'm still under the belief that this is just a temporary thing. I do, but I'm ripping on him now because he's not right. Something's not right.
As we've had this conversation before, everybody knows something's not right. I think it's between the ears.
You can tell by his reactions. He just looks.
Yeah. And the guy lost his father years ago, and I'm sure that was incredibly hard. He could have a family issue, God forbid, but there's something that's affecting his game, and it's not for public consumption. It's not something we need to know. But I mean, I'm of the same belief you are that his track record's too good. He's too talented to continue to play like this. But do I see him pulling the nose up this year? No, I don't, because I don't see any reason to believe that he would at this point.
No, I don't either. I think
Vidar
is the guy.
And he's your best chance at this point.
Hopefully it starts tonight. Kyle, I'm not gonna lie, man. On Monday afternoon, I almost called you and said, "Hey, that nonsense you were talking about Wolf, I almost had to eat crow there. I almost had to call you, man."
Well, there's a couple issues there. Unless you can pick up another goaltender at the deadline, maybe, which I don't really think is a strategy for this team necessarily. But
no.
But even calling up Oscar Dansk to back up Dan Vladar, so Markstrom can just take a leave, because the Wranglers are such a good team right now. They've already lost Pelche to the big club, and he's probably not going back until if the Flames.
I wouldn't think so.
No, and nor should he. But
although I don't dislike his game, but at some point here he's going to have to start putting some points up.
Yeah, and
I'm positive on where he's at, and I like the projection. And I like where he's going, but at some point here now, the enamor of a new player, a young prospect's going to have to slide to the side and be like, all right, I need to see some of the production you were putting up in AHL Wranglers.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the one of the issues there is that, as far as, he's still got a little ways to go with the big club, obviously, but I think it's hard to bring Wolf up to a team with so much uncertainty, because I agree with some of the concerns about his confidence, whatever, as a young player. But
I gave you my concerns last week, and I still stand by those. But
I think they got to do something to get Markstrom just out of the lineup. So I think Oscar Dansk as a backup, maybe he has a couple NHL games to his credit.
Yeah,
do it for a week. Give Vladar all the starts. Let Dansk ride the pine. Let Markstrom go home and do whatever he's going to do. And take some time, because this is not working. And Vladar is our best chance to make any noise at this point.
Yeah. Michael Stone goes out injured. He's been seen on
crutches,
boot and crutches. We don't know. He's been put on injured reserve. Walker Dewar has been recalled from the AHL Wranglers. I'm happy about that. I'm assuming Dennis Gilbert will take the load. I did hear rumblings today. Anything's been, been finalized yet. We're recording this hours before the Flames are in Arizona to take on the Coyotes, and I've heard that they may go with 7D tonight, so we'll see what happens there. And
Luke Shen is, I think, very much still on the team's radar, and he's done playing until he's traded, by everything I'm hearing.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep an eye on. Now, in terms of if Dewar's playing, or if they end up going with 7D or whatever they're doing, I guess that would necessitate Connor Mackey coming to the lineup, which we've talked about before as well. But it's interesting. Stone is a bit of a liability defensively at times, as much as I love the guy.
We're the presidents of his fan club, but
yeah, absolutely.
But he's not playing like he was at the beginning of the year.
Well, and I think we talked about this before. He was always kind of your consummate seventh defenseman, and when you press that guy into duty all the time, it's
I got a question for you though.
Fire.
So how come when Michael Stone makes an error in the defensive zone, everybody in the organization and the fan base is like, oh, well, he's a seventh D man and he's not very good.
Okay.
But when Zadorov,
there it is. I knew you were going with this. Go on, please.
Sucks, and Hanifin sucks.
Yeah.
How come we're like, well, it's Noah Hanifin and he's young and he's gonna keep progressing. He's gonna be great. And Zadorov, that guy's playing out of his ass this year. He's been really, really good all year.
I don't know. The perception of Zadorov as being really, really good this year, I really don't buy it. I think he's had games where he's jumped into the play really effectively, thrown some great hits, but
I just wonder why certain guys just get freaking free passes all the time. And the fan base crucified the shit out of Zadorov last year at the beginning of the year. And then as the year went on, people just kind of, was like, okay, he's doing all right. At the beginning of this year, it was freaking a love fest for Zadorov. Oh my God, he's got 3 goals and he's the greatest guy in the whole world. But they failed to see that all the 2-on-1s he's botched this year.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So let me ask you this in return, because this applies to any of us. And I love real world analogies. I know you're kind of the boss where you're at, but how many people in different companies you've worked with or for, it's the same thing. Some guys get a free pass. They can screw up, never get hauled into a meeting with the boss. If I screw up, I get hauled into a meeting. But I know guys that, contribute a lot the guys that contribute a lot less to our company's bottom line than I do, and they get a free pass. Is it because expectations? I don't know.
Every company has that, I think. I don't
Yeah, it's just part of being human, right? People get it for people get a free pass in life, and others don't, and it's not always fair, right?
Do you ever think though, Kyle, like I always try to throw that scenario, like that work thing is like, well, maybe it's my own perception that I don't get a free pass and I actually do.
I immediately thought of philosopher Rene Descartes, like I think, therefore I am. Like I took that really deep, what you just said. So, yeah,
you know?
I do. Yeah. And I mean, I wonder the same thing.
We look the other way on the times we get the passes.
Yeah.
Because we don't think we get the passes.
Or worse yet, it could be oblivious to maybe the gravity of what's gone on. And because nobody brought it to our attention, we just carry on as we were, right?
Yep.
Because maybe they're thinking, this guy performed really well in this way, so we're just going to let that one slide, not bring it up because it's not worth stirring the pot or stressing anybody out. But more to the point, I don't entirely understand it in this context, because by the eye test for the hockey media, the fans, the team's brass, whatever, Zadorov has not been great a lot of the time. Hanifin has been not good at all many nights.
And I'm a Noah Hanifin fan, and I always
he's a great skater. He's picked up some more points lately. There's lots to like about his game, but
there's lots to not like too, though.
Unless you're Rasmus Anderson, Chris Tanev, or to a lesser extent, but admirably, Dennis Gilbert, nobody's been that good this year, which is why we've been clamoring so much for Oliver Shillington, not just because he's a great skater and, his game's come so far, but
I'm done on the Shillington thing. I don't know. I'm kind of hit a frustration point. Like,
no, he's not coming back.
Well, here's the deal, though. Like, okay, name me one other job that you can just take a leave of absence. And I don't know the situation, and so don't.
Mm-hmm.
But name me one profession where you can just take a leave of absence. I'm assuming he's still getting paid.
I believe so. Yeah.
So name me one other profession you can just take a leave of absence, say, I got issues, man, in my family, which I feel horrible for anybody that does.
Mm-hmm.
That you can just arbitrarily leave your position and not say when you're coming back or how the problems are going to get rectified, and you still get a paycheck.
That's the privilege of sport.
And how long before we don't need to know the details as a fan base, but we should know he's not coming back ever, or he's not coming back till next season, or the team has to know.
Well, realistically, I think it should be written in the CBA that the team has to be notified by a certain date. If you haven't played all year, almost like.
So look at this. So look at this. Okay, we signed Shillington, right? And this is, I'm not trying to come off like an asshole, but like we signed Shillington to a 2-year deal at $2.5 million, right? The team's holding up their end of the bargain, paying the bill, right? So now next year, we get him for $2.5 million, but we signed him for 2 years, but we only got to use him 1.
Yeah. Contract should roll over to a 3rd year.
I don't know.
What it should do. No, excuse me. The team should have the option of a 3rd year to roll it over. That's what they should have. Because to me, I agree with you. Personal circumstances aside, it's entirely unfair to the team.
And I'm all about players' rights and but I'm also about owners' rights too.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's these guys make a ton of money. It's a privilege of sport, right?
I don't know.
I think that should be an option for the team, because otherwise he plays out. Let's say he has a monster year next year. Well, now you're going to re-sign him for way more money, and that's not right.
And then he's going to say, well, I want $6 million. And it's like, well, goddamn, I just gave you 2.5 and you weren't even here.
Yeah, exactly. Man, I'd love $2.5 million to stay home. That's a little insensitive, granted. So I'll back off on that.
Well, no, but I don't think we're crossing a line here, because both of us are compassionate to what is happening with Shillington.
We're just talking about this practically. Yeah, we're just talking about the circumstances practically. I'm not concerned. I should say I am concerned, as you are, with whatever's going on in his life, and I wish him the best. It's just that as a contracted employee of this team, this is less than ideal.
This is far less than ideal, and there needs to be some clarity on it, and clarity moving forward, so the team can move forward, right?
Well,
I don't know.
What's one of the team's number one needs at the deadline? A defenseman. So
on Oliver Shillington.
Yep.
Okay, now that we're a little fired up, let's keep on that mode. And this week, Elias Lindholm welcomed a little Levi Lindholm, which congratulations to the Lindholm family. And
Absolutely.
he did not participate in morning skate on Saturday and did not play against the Rangers because his wife was in labor.
Yep.
But we had the gall to have Flames fans bash him on Twitter. And I hope it was just some guy trying to be, or multiple people just trying to be smart asses, like people tend to be on social media.
Oh, trolling, thinking they're funny. I only recall seeing one tweet to that effect, but I'm sure there was more.
I just don't understand that. And that's a segue into what I know you wanted to talk about today. In that how as Flames fans who have invested a ton into this organization, time, love, money, heartache, everything, because we all have.
Yep.
Like, but where do we draw the line? Because I heard a thing, and I want to let you go with this. I heard a thing today where it said, I'm a 53-year-old guy. I've been a Flames fan forever, and we've been mediocre to sucking every year for 30 years.
Yeah.
And I said, my response is, well, the Canucks have done the same thing. So have the Sabres. So I can name 10 teams, 15 teams that can say the exact same thing. 32 teams are trying to win this damn cup.
Yep. Is this where you want me to go off? Is it time?
Go.
So, all right. First of all, you're right. There's only a little more than a handful of teams who have had sustained periods of success over however many years they've existed. Okay. The problem that I have with fans is the way that they often will judge other fans. So, for example, as you just said, as this guy said, I've been a fan for X amount of years. Don't give a shit. Your amount of years as a fan does not make you a better fan than the next guy. So the guy that tweeted me saying, been a fan since 86, blah, 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 like, I never whined. First of all, bullshit. Guarantee you've whined because you're invested emotionally in the team. Brad, you're going to tell me you never once whined about something your wife said or did? I'm sure you have.
We've all whined and cheered about every single thing that we've cared about in our whole life.
Exactly. So the idea of quantifying somebody's fandom, the idea that you can sit there and say, oh, like I've been a fan for this long, or you're not a fan because you're being critical. Like I lashed out a bit on Twitter on Monday with that loss to the Flyers. And I felt I had every right to. I said the team is trash. They've been playing like trash. Defensive coverage is trash. Goaltending is trash. Who in their right mind is going to argue otherwise when the results have been what they are, right? It does not mean I don't love my team. It does not mean I don't have thousands upon thousands of dollars invested in them. It doesn't mean I'm not going to go to a game. It doesn't mean anything other than the fact I'm invested, I'm frustrated. And for that reason, anybody out there who thinks they have the ability to pull rank on another fan or sit there and chew them out for expressing how they feel, unless they're crossing a line like what you alluded to, if it's a family matter, whether it's Oliver Shillington, Elias Lindholm's son being born, that has nothing to do with hockey. That's life, and you leave that alone. That is almost your responsibility or duty, not as a fan necessarily, but as a human being. Leave that alone. But if you want to talk about
that, doesn't happen.
Well, you're right.
In this world, that's not happening anymore, because what social media has done is it's given a platform for idiots to talk tough.
Yeah.
Whereas back in the day, we didn't have Twitter, so me and you would be talking about this at the bar, and if I said something out of line, you'd pop me one, right?
That's it, right? But I just don't understand why these people think they have the right to do that, to question somebody else's loyalty or fandom. And half these people haven't spent half the money that the guy who apparently isn't a real fan has spent. So if you want to quantify it, let's look at it that way. So you want to sit there and say you've been a fan for 30-some years. The next guy is half your age and only been a fan for 5, but he's been to 10 playoff games. You know what I mean? Like, I don't get where that thinking comes from. You're all part of the same fan base.
We haven't even played in 10.
Yeah, like we're all disappointed how we're all disappointed how they performed. So just don't be an asshole about it and express your feelings.
One of the things too that I look at this is I've always been an advocate for hockey, right? Like I always go to bat for the sport and be like, oh, football player would do that, a hockey player wouldn't.
Yeah.
Right? Well, I kind of do that with like Calgary Flames fans. Like I love this fan base. I've got a lot of friends in this fan base. Like, but I've had a lot of people, I'm like, I read their stuff and I'm like, this guy's like ridiculous here. He wants to trade everything because of one loss. I mean, one bad year, like sell the place, but I look at this and I'm like, this is shit Vancouver fans do. Like, I don't want to be a Vancouver fan, right?
Oh man.
Have you not thought that a lot this year, though? When you're looking at Twitter, I'm like, oh my God, this looks so much what Vancouver would do. Like,
I thought different things. I was thinking back to the elevator incident in the playoffs against the Oilers. Those other fans were heckling Backlund and Mangiapane, like just the worst type of behavior. I think every fan base is capable of it. Some, more so than others. Obviously, referring to things like the Vancouver riot in 2011. But there's a lot of moments this year where I kind of question it and kind of think like, come on, guys. Like at the end of the day, the team is drastically underperformed as of right now. Not looking good necessarily to make the playoffs, but how, again, it's like I said before, whenever previous episodes, how did everybody think that because they lost 2 good players and gained 2 good players that you just plug and play, like it was all just going to be great? I thought it was too, but you have to be understanding the fact that it didn't pan out exactly like we hoped. Huberdeau has not had a great year. Kadri's had a pretty good year most of the time. He wasn't going to score like he did in Colorado. He doesn't have the same support. Uyghur has been extremely underwhelming offensively. I think we can all agree. So it is what it is. Is it worth sitting there losing your mind saying things like, oh, like the team should just sell everything? I don't know. Maybe we need to retool for next season.
the thing is,
I don't know.
We've went through like a lot of shit in this world the last 2 years. And I always, with the exception of some stupid stuff eking into sports, which it has, I've kind of looked at sports as my escape from the nonsense in the world, right?
It's supposed to be, I think, anyway.
And as mad as I get at this team and as mad as I get about how we're playing and all that goes into it, like we still do this because it's entertainment and fun, right? Like this is fun. And some days it's not going to be fun.
Yep.
But you take the good and you take the bad. And I look at the Winnipeg Jets last year. And the Winnipeg Jets struggled miserably, couldn't get a save to save their life. And now this year they're getting Vezina quality goaltending, and they're up to the top of the standings.
Yep.
Now, I'm not saying that happens next year or anything like that, but I'm just saying, like, pushing the panic button, freaking out on your team and looking like an idiot, and then I don't know. I don't know. I'm kind of disappointed. I mean, I get fired up and I get mad and I say things and tweet things I probably shouldn't about this team. But all in all, like, I don't think we're a bad hockey team. I don't. I mean, and maybe I am the ignorant one for saying that, but I look at this thing on paper and I'm like, I know Huberdeau can be better. I know Uyghur can be better. I think Kadri can be better. I think Mangiapane can be better. I know Markstrom can and has to be better. I think Dubé is playing. I mean, I can go through the whole damn roster.
Yep. But see, this is the point that I think I might have mentioned this on the show before. Gord Miller said years ago with the Flyers in the late 2000s, I think it was. They're a good team that had a bad year. And when you look at the roster at the time, and it's hard to remember some of them now, but like look at them on paper, much like the Flames, same kind of thing. I called the Flames a trash team because that's exactly what they're playing like. And there's no denying that. Yeah, there's no denying that. I don't think anybody in that locker room is going to deny it. Obviously, there's some positives here and there, but the results are not there. And this is a results-based business like any other. Right?
It is.
So, to me, like, I don't think it's out of the question this team misses this year. Maybe they do end up making a management change or a coaching change or tweak the roster of the summer. There's still some really good pieces here. Going to take some cap maneuvering, of course, to make some things fit. A bit of money coming off the books. Again, Markstrom is a problem. He's got to be a lot better, but it's not a team that you're capable in a cap world of blowing up, as some have been, crying for. And it's not one you necessarily need to.
How are you going to blow this team? I hear this all the time. Let's blow it up and go get prospects. Oh, first of all, you got to draft right to get prospects that can play in this game.
Well,
second of all, like, how do you blow this up? How do I get rid of all these contracts? Who's taking all these on? And I'm not saying they're all bad. I'm just saying nobody has a cap space to even take them on if they were good.
Well, they're big dollar and lengthy term,
Oh, it's just frustrating. Another thing that frustrated me this week is Alan Walsh got back into it. And this brings me back to the friggin' Michael Frolik days when we had to deal with this nut job. But he tweets out after Friday's loss to Detroit, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Also, negativity sucks the joy right out of players.
Yeah.
at NHL Flames.
Yeah.
Okay. Huberdeau followed it up the next day with saying, I did not know he was going to say that. I'm not in that, I believe he said, it doesn't come from me, it comes from my agent, but it's from him. It doesn't reflect me or the guys in this room. We all love each other. We're having fun.
Well, it's a bad look, regardless of the truth of what Huberdeau said, and I'd be inclined to believe him, but it's a really bad look. Like
I believe Huberdeau on this. I do.
Yeah, but whether you do or you don't, you just don't do that. And this is like you said, it's the same thing.
You know what you do? If you're Jonathan Huberdeau, you get on the phone the next morning and say, hey, let me speak. You're my agent. Shut up. You're fired.
Yeah.
You're fired.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put up with the same BS that Marc-Andre Fleury has put up with, Michael Frolik has put up with, every other Tom, Dick, and Harry. I'm underachieving this year. It's in my hands to change that, not your mouth. Zip it or you're done.
Yeah. Yep.
And maybe he said that. Maybe he did say that. I don't know.
Well, you would think, because this is the third, like you mentioned, the 3 instances, and I'm sure there's others, but those are the 3 that I'm aware of, that somebody would take a hint eventually. That Alan Walsh, somebody would straighten him out, or he would understand, like, listen, you're a player agent. You're there to negotiate money for your client and money for yourself. Shut the hell up. There is absolutely no, even if what he said is true, there is no good that can come of that. No. What do you think? What do you think you're going to change by tweeting that? You think you're helping your client by, showing that he's represented by a whiny little bitch of an agent? Don't think so. Like, what is the end game?
It was honestly a surprise to me that we got Huberdeau signed when I saw who his agent was, and I thought, oh man, it's going to be a rodeo.
But for the money and term they offered him, the agent was going to jump all over it. But I mean, to me, it's just such a bad look, and there's no doubt there's a ton of negativity surrounding this team, and all Alan Walsh did was make it worse. And if I'm not mistaken, he either has or had me blocked on Twitter as it related to the Michael Frolik thing, because I kind of lost my mind back then too.
He has more people blocked than Milan Lucic does,
but not as many as Eric Francis. I can guarantee you that.
No, probably not. Even though, and you're gonna want to punch me through the screen on this, Eric Francis is right on some things.
Yeah, and a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while. What's your point?
He bugs me sometimes, but I agree with him sometimes.
He's right about some things. It's the presentation and the pompous ass attitude. And
I can't argue that one with you. I was impressed with the way Daryl Sutter handled the Huberdeau thing. He's like, well, I'm not holding it against Huberdeau. He didn't say it. And he said, social media, what anybody says there does not affect this locker room. It just doesn't. I thought he handled it real well. And
it's a good response. I don't know that it's necessarily true, because I think every player carries a smartphone. They all know what's going on. But I like the stance he took. I agree with you.
I don't know. So where does this team go? Like, we're 9 days from NHL trade deadline. Don't quote me on the exact math on that, but Friday, March. Where do we go? We're in the standings. I sit and I look at the standings, and here's the part that scares the hell out of me, Kyle. Last week, we were pretty much in the running pretty well with everything as far as catching even Pacific Division, teams. But now I look at this now, and right now we're 10 back of Vegas, who's first in the Pacific. We're 8 back of LA. We're 7 back of Seattle, who's third. The wild card, we're 7 back of Edmonton. We're 4 back of Minnesota. That quick. They've won 3 in a row, and all of a sudden we're 4 back of them. That scares me a little bit. We're starting to lose reach here. We need wins. These next 2 games are huge. We have 4 games this week, 3 of them against playoff teams that are good. Maybe that's a blessing. We seem to play better against good teams. I don't know.
I think if you don't win the next 2, then you have to look at selling what assets you can.
In March, it doesn't get any easier. You've got Toronto, Minnesota twice, and Dallas for the first 4 games. The good news there is we do play Minnesota twice, and that's who we're trying to catch.
Yeah.
We play Vegas 3 times, LA twice, and Nashville once. All good news there.
Yeah.
Well, we got to get this figured out, because we have 3 choices come deadline.
I mean, buy, sell, and stand pat.
Well, do nothing. Yep. Which
Yeah.
is probably what they're thinking right at the moment, I would guess.
Apart from, a minor tweak, send a mid-round pick to get a decent defenseman. Something like that, I think is going to happen regardless of where they are.
Well, we could buy and go all in. And here's my stance on that. And I know we talked about this a little bit earlier today. Brad Treliving is not signed next year.
Nope.
And he needs to be in the playoffs to have a chance at getting a contract, in my mind, which I would sign him because I like what he's done. People can throw trash at me for saying that, but I do think he's done pretty well with what he's been dealt. Does he go all in and get a D-man and possibly 2 D-men now with all the injuries and get a scoring winger? Or do we throw in the towel and we sell and entertain offers on, next year pending UFAs like Tyler Toffoli, Noah Hannafin, Zadorov? Heck, do we even entertain thoughts of Dan Vladar?
Well, again, I'll use a personal work analogy for either of us or anybody else in, performance-based business. If you're in a position where you feel like your job is in jeopardy because of poor performance or inadequate performance, you have to do everything you can to save your job.
You go balls out, don't you?
Yeah, I don't think there's a scenario wherein you can sell off assets unless you can rocket your way up the draft lottery possibility, unless you can acquire a ton of picks and prospects for the roster players you have, which we've talked about, because the guys you'd have to sell, you can't really sell because they're contracts and they're not even worth that much based on performance. So you're not going to. The likelihood of securing any amount of job security through selling is next to none, because you've proven nothing. Because what you need proven is that the assets you've acquired somehow panned out. Well, you don't have time to do that. So if you stand pat, it's 50-50. You'll keep your job because maybe this could go to the playoffs. Hell, maybe they win a round. Because we've said before, if this team could get in, and especially if their goaltending could sharpen up a little bit, they could actually be a little bit dangerous, potentially.
We get good goaltending, and this is a whole new team, Kyle. This is a
average goaltending. This is a whole new team.
We're in a playoff spot for sure if we have average goaltending.
Absolutely. So with those two options, being covered, he's got to throw a Hail Mary. And I don't know what that is. I'm not going to sit here and, talk about all the different trade scenarios. Like I hate that sometimes on Twitter, like, oh, I did this in NHL 23, or what if we did this? It's like, okay, that's not going to happen. I don't know what those trades would look like. I just know that I think if I'm trying to save my job in his shoes, I'm going to make a few trades. And if you squeak in, and keep in mind too, owners look at money. Playoffs make you money. Yes. So all these fans that always say, oh, we may as well not made the playoffs. That's never, ever true. You need that playoff revenue. You
need that revenue to buy guys like
Mark. Well, and to sell hope to your fans, right?
Yes.
There's so many reasons to make the playoffs, and there's no reasons to miss them.
Well, people forget 32 teams are trying to win this damn cup every year, and only one does.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think he has a choice but to go all in. Now, again, I'll stand by my personal stance that my belief is that if they don't win the next 2 games, I think they need to look seriously at selling. But if I'm Brad Treliving, no matter what happens the next few games, his raison d'etre right now is to buy whatever he can buy to get this team into the playoffs, because there is no guarantees he's going to have a job this summer. And there is no other route he can go that will give him any kind of guarantee he's going to have a job this summer.
I'm with you. I'm with you. And I don't know. Maybe they have a contract in the desk drawer that's just not announced. I don't know. I don't know that those circumstances.
They could just be holding their cards. They might be super happy and just like, you know what? Let's see what he does here. Let's not tip our hand. We've all done that in negotiations.
Yeah.
Who's going to blink first? So I think it's going to be fascinating because this is a really unique position to be in.
It is. I don't know if I like the situation, but
I hate it, but it is what it is.
Because you know what I would do if I was him? I'd be like, all right, I'm on the last hand of poker here. I got to throw all in, and I don't really care what the fallout looks like next year, because if I don't have a job, I'm going to be watching anyways. So,
but to your point, if he does not get a new contract in Calgary, somebody's going to hire him. He's brilliant. He's done a really, really good job with this team, no matter what anybody feels.
It bothers me, and this goes back to our getting mad at the fan base. Half of these people that are flipping out about Huberdeau and Uyghur and all this hate talk are the same people that when they were acquired was like, oh my gosh, Tree Living is the greatest guy in the entire world. I cannot believe he pulled this off. This is amazing. These guys are going to be amazing players. It's the same damn people.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah.
Oh,
100%.
I don't know. Are we done venting? Is it time to preview some games ahead?
Sure, why not?
Get all your Flames Unfiltered podcasts, team news, team updates, and highlights at flamesunfiltered.com. Busy week for the Flames. It starts on Wednesday night, tonight actually, as the Flames go to Mullet Arena in Arizona for a big, giant 5,000 fan. I don't know, geez. I don't know. We're not getting into that topic, but
that's as far as we need to go.
Currently 7th in the Pacific, but they are on a bit of a hot streak. I don't know.
That's what weak teams do. They're always hot this time of year.
I know. Did you see what Clayton Keller said the other day?
No.
After they had won a game, and I don't know if it was like a late win or overtime win or something. He's like, "Yeah, that's 2 more points for us. Our general manager is probably not happy."
Good for him. That's hilarious.
I couldn't believe it. Oh. Second of 3 meetings between the two. Calgary did win in December in Calgary 3-2, and they play again in Arizona mid-March. Well, there's no rest after tonight. They go back. They go to Vegas for Thursday night. I think we'll see Vladar both games. It's announced that Vladar is playing tonight in Arizona. Do you think we see Vladar 2 games in a row? I guess, or does it depending on how he does tonight?
It depends how he does tonight, but even if he performs well, I don't think we've ever seen Vladar back-to-back.
We did. Toronto and somewhere last year.
Like one night after the other?
Coming out of the COVID, we saw Vladar.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Huh. And he was magnificent.
I don't know. It would surprise me. Now, if he stands on his head tonight, obviously Sutter's not afraid to do it. He's done it with Markstrom too. Maybe he goes back to him tomorrow. I think that's your answer anyway, because I've said a million times and I'll say it again. You don't go back to Markstrom at this point.
No, I don't think you do either.
No.
Vegas first in the Pacific, sputtering, but finding a way to get points in 8 of 10. A lot of 1-point games there. This is the second of 4 meetings between the two. Calgary did win back in October 3-2, and they play 2 more times, 1 in Vegas, 1 in Calgary. And this, I don't believe the Flames have ever won in Vegas, have they?
I don't believe so. No, that's the new Arrowhead Pond of Anaheim.
I went and watched the Flames a couple years ago in Vegas. They got shelled like 6-2.
Ugh, gross.
Not a fun night, but
no,
it is what it is. Saturday night, Flames are in Colorado for a stop there. The Colorado 3rd in the Central, climb in the standings quickly with 3 straight wins, points in 8 of 10. This team is probably one of the hottest teams in the league, right up there with the Rangers and Hurricanes. 3rd and final meeting, the team split. Calgary won in Calgary on opening night 5-3 and lost in January 4-1. Tuesday, still before we talk again, we're going to get 4 games, Kyle. Oof. Tuesday, Boston comes to the Saddle Dome. They're currently first in the Atlantic, winners of 4 straight. Second night of a back-to-back for Boston, so maybe that helps us. I don't know. It didn't matter last week, but
hopefully
it help us. I don't know. Second and final meeting of the two. Boston won 3-1 in Boston in November. And, if there is a bright spot, when you look at this is 4 games in a row that are all against teams that are good or teams that are hot. Maybe, just maybe, the Flame, maybe that's a good thing, because if you look at our record against the Blackhawks and all the really bad teams, we're horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is a blessing. I don't know. I mean, I'm looking for freaking anything right now to get me through this week.
No, let's hope it's a win tonight in front of a handful of spectators in Arizona.
It's a normal night, though, in Arizona, right? You know what's different about this new arena in Arizona? The only thing different is
it's tiny.
The same amount of Arizona fans get to go.
Wow.
It's just that you don't have the, like before. I don't know.
The density is a little bit different.
Yeah, but you know what used to happen though? It used to go to a Coyotes game and there'd be 5,000 Coyotes fans and there'd be 5,000 of the opposing team, because it was cheaper to fly from Calgary and go to a game in Arizona than it is to go to a game at the Saddle Dome.
Yep.
It's cheaper. Crazy.
isn't it?
Crazy.
Oh God, I'm exhausted. This episode was a lot of work.
It was a lot of work. A lot of emotions, man.
I wonder if it's going to be this much work when it's actually good, like the performance.
It's easier to do this show when we're winning.
It's been so long, I can't remember.
I know. Neither. Sucks.
Oh, well. Brighter days ahead. However soon, we don't know, but brighter days ahead.
That's right. Kyle and I are back next week. More Calgary Flames hockey talk. Next week, we will preview that NHL trade deadline day that's going to be here before you know it. Next Friday, March 3rd. Check us out at flamesunfiltered.com. We're on all the major podcast players, and you can watch us on YouTube. Flames fans, 4 big ones this week. I don't even know what to say about that. We'll see what happens.
Cross your fingers and toes.
Oh, check us out next week. Have a good week, Flames fans.
See you guys.
Get connected. Flames Unfiltered can be found on Twitter at Flame Unfiltered. Check out the Facebook page at Flames Unfiltered. Host Brad Burud is on Twitter at Brad Burud, and host Kyle Lewis is on Twitter at VanLewis14. Like what you hear? Rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Flames Unfiltered can be found on all the major podcast players. Want to watch the show? You got it. Check out Inside Edge Hockey Media Group for every show. Subscribe while you watch. Thanks for listening, watching, and interacting. Enjoy the hockey action.
We call him playoff! Yeah, baby! Playoff! Yeah, baby!
Thanks for tuning in to Flames Unfiltered. Check back for more action-packed Calgary Flames talk. This episode of Flames Unfiltered was copyrighted and produced by Inside Edge Hockey Media Group.